When it comes to shonen anime, the fights are by far one of the biggest aspects of a show. For many, it is the whole reason why they watch the genre. Yes, we all like deep characters and great story arcs, but all of it typically boils down to some intense fights. My Hero Academia has been criticized for not having the best fights. Some people say that the fights are boring. Though I may not agree, everyone is entitled to their own opinions. In fact, this video is 100% just my opinion. Today we're talking about what are my top 5 favorite fights in the first 3 seasons of My Hero Academia. Let's do this. At number 5 is All Might vs. Nomu. This was pretty much the biggest fight in the first season. Everything had been leading up to the League of Villains breaking into UA. While All Might was not with the students, Shigaraki broke into the USJ with tons and tons of villains. He then sicked the Nomu on Eraserhead. And you know what? When coming up with this list, I almost wanted to say that the fight with Nomu and Eraserhead was my number 5, but you don't really see much of that fight. Instead, you see the terror and the torture that, Nomu brought to Eraserhead. This actually built up Nomu's, villainy, so by the time All Might would appear, you would be ready to see this climactic battle. This fight is by far not the best in the series, but when I first saw this fight, there was no other battles in the season that would even compare to it. It was exhilarating and left me craving for more. I would be disappointed to find out later that I would have to wait for Season 2 to see more of these kinds of awesome fights. Speaking of Season 2, as much as I liked it, none of the fights in that season quite made this list. Many of you might actually like the battles like Deku vs. Todoroki, or Todoroki vs. Bakugo, or even that Stain fight. But there are so many good fights in Season 3 that I couldn't quite fit any of those on to this list. So let's get to number 4, which is All Might versus All For One. The stakes for this fight was, at an all-time high. All Might was trying to rescue Bakugo, but he was being stopped by his arch-nemesis. Both parties seemed to be evenly matched, but what always stuck out to me was just how calm One For All was. His tone rarely ever got scared, worried, or frightened, or even angered. It seemed like he just kind of stayed the same, very level-headed. One of the coolest things of this fight was All For One's forcible quirk activation. He has this creepy red and black whip vine spikes that come out of his hands, and he would stab them into his victims. And in some cases, he would force others to activate their quirk with it. I especially love the scene when he would stab All Might and he throws him into a building, and then, in a few seconds, bam, the building explodes. It was just awesome. Not only is this an awesome fight, but we even see a daring rescue when Deku, Ida, and Kirishima save Bakugo. For me, it was kind of unexpected. Everything in this series had told the students to not get involved, and I didn't see how they could get involved without fighting. Deku came up with a great plan, and ultimately it paid off. By the end of this fight, All For One was behind bars, but All Might had pushed his limits so far that he was forced into retirement. His epic speech brought tears to Deku's eyes and goosebumps to myself as I watched it for the first time. This was a great battle and had many important implications for the future of My Hero Academia. Number 3 is the licensing exams themselves. This exam has several battles within it, but some of my faves are so short that it feels wrong to individually rank them. For instance, I love when the majority of Class 1A stays together, but then quickly gets ambushed by other students. Then Yoshindo breaks up the group with his earthquake-like quirk. It completely changed the game, and I personally was excited to see Yoshindo in action. The next part of this arc that I liked was to see Inasa Yaorashi use his quirk to get 120 students out all at the same time. To see him use his quirk in this way was just awesome. This scene was like less than 5 minutes, but I loved it. And finally, this was probably the longest fight, with Todoroki and Inasa fighting Boss Orca. The two had their issues fighting him, but it was great to see Boss Orca more than anything fighting. I have always thought that he has a great character design, and the fact that he had acted as a villain for this test was just as cool. Number 2 on this list is actually where it gets really hard for me to choose. I went over it time and time again between this pick and the pick for number 1, and finally I settled on this one being number 2. So my number 2 is Deku versus Bakugo. Again, this was really hard for me to put at my number 2. I think for many people, this fight might actually be their number 1. The thing about this fight is it's something we all wanted. All great shonens have a top-notch rivalry. In those animes, everyone wants to see those two go head-to-head. And that's exactly what happens between Deku and Bakugo. And man, is it awesome. It's riveting. And more importantly, it's emotional. When I first saw this fight, I teared up. The fight itself is good, but on top of that, I feel like the two characters grow as characters throughout this one battle. You learn just how tied Deku is to Bakugo, and you learn that Bakugo feels totally at fault for All Might's retirement. And finally, Bakugo even learns the secret that Deku has All Might's quirk. This battle is intense, climactic, and has all the feels. Finally, at number 1, Deku versus Muscular. Again, this was a hard choice. Deku versus Bakugo is a super good fight, and may even be a better fight, but it is how I felt when I first saw Deku fighting Muscular that makes this my number 1 pick. When I first saw this fight, I felt like it was an epic battle that I've been waiting to see. 2 whole seasons I've been waiting for this kind of fight. Most fights never really had enough stakes for me. Think about the fight of the USJ. You know, the whole time Deku was surrounded by friends, he was surrounded by teachers, and yes, at any moment a villain could have killed him, but it just didn't feel like that was really what was at stake here. And then if you even look at Season 2 with the fight at the sports festival, you know, of course, no one's going to die there. And then there's the fight with Stain, and Stain saw Deku as worthy, so he's probably not going to kill him. So I've been waiting for like a DBZ-like fight, where, hey, at any moment, someone could kill you. And this was that fight. And I was so excited. And, I think I went back and watched it, and it's only like an episode or maybe an episode and a half, but it was still a great fight. It was awesome. We all know that the main character isn't going to die, but still, it was like, dude, finally, there's a chance that he could maybe die. There is a way that he could. And, Muscular, he has a great design, and he has just this blood, hunger, thirst to murder someone, and it was so cool. And here's the thing, guys, not only was that fight awesome, but it pushed Deku to his limits, and he had to break through to use, the one for all 1,000,000%. That one moment was just phenomenal. It was so freaking cool. Like, I loved it. Well, there you guys have it. My top 5 favorite battles in My Hero Academia. I know that not everyone will agree with me, and that's okay. It's just my opinion. But I would love to hear from you. Put in the comments below what your top 5 favorite battles from the first 3 seasons of My Hero Academia are for you. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my videos. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next time.